Hey, everybody, and welcome into a new episode of Billikens Beat here at the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. I'm Ben Frederickson, joined as always by Stu Durando, here to break down this week in Billikens basketball. And a busy week talking SLU hoops because of some changes here. Stu, we were wondering what might happen with these conference tournaments. Got the news about the A-10. They're moving this thing up, which means the Billikens only have 3 regular season games left guaranteed. We'll see if they tack on an extra one there at the end, but as of now, it looks like it'll be 3. We're recording this on a Friday morning. SLU plays Dayton tonight, and then a trip to VCU after that, a game against Richmond. Then they'll be off to the A-10 tournament. Why did this happen? How did it happen? And what kind of an importance does it place on these last 3 regular season games for the Billikens?
Yeah, there always seems to be a curveball, one big one every week that all of a sudden you have to readjust your thinking on everything. With the rescheduling of the tournament, moving it up a week, SLU will not play the last week. They're scheduled to play George Mason, and then the final weekend, when they would have had 1 or 2 games possibly added, gets wiped out. So they lose 2 or 3 games that way. They'll end up, if they play their remaining games, with 9, which is half of the regular A-10 schedule. Very strange. It looks like the A-10 probably was doing this largely with the COVID factor in mind. They want to, I would think, have some kind of a extra time for potential shutdowns by teams to recover in time, maybe for the championship game. But they've just basically swapped the men's and women's tournaments, the weekends. The strange thing is the separation of the championship game from the rest of the tournament, which, no one's ever seen before. You play the first 4 days in Richmond. I can't think of the dates. I'll get them wrong if I try and say them. Moved up a week, and then the championship game gets delayed until Selection Sunday in Dayton. So very bizarre.
I think we might see some more shifting around college basketball. As I think they're getting more worried about having the tournaments run up so close to that quarantine phase of the NCAA tournament. Not quarantine, but they have to have guys pass 7 consecutive COVID tests before they're allowed into kind of like the bubble-like setting in Indianapolis. So we might see some more of this. There's been talk to maybe teams that are guaranteed to get in, opting out. We'll see if that happens across college basketball. But we've got to talk about these final regular season games here, because SLU has played such a few amount of games. They're 11-3. They're 4-2 in A-10 play. They've missed a month of games because of COVID, but they've won 4 straight since that 2 consecutive losses when they got back from their month-long pause, and they've beaten one of the teams they've lost to early on. A chance to beat Dayton, to really, I think, send up a message to the selection committee that, hey, the Billikens are back. Those losses they had to Dayton and LaSalle were not the real Billikens. They were the Billikens who were shaking off a month of rust. So we'll see if they can take care of that against Dayton tonight, Stu. But this game against VCU is going to be really big too, because as of right now, VCU is actually ranked 1 spot ahead of SLU in the net rankings.
Right. Yeah, it puts a huge emphasis now on the final 3 games, as you said, and they're all good opponents. Dayton on the road is certainly no slouch after beating SLU in St. Louis. And then VCU is their one remaining chance at a quad 1 game. So it becomes huge. Also, it plays into the seeding for the A-10 tournament, and VCU right now is sitting up top of the league. Unexpectedly, they were picked up kind of middle of the pack at the beginning of the year. So that is a huge game on the road at a place where SLU has had trouble over the years, although it'll be in front of nobody this time. And then you finish up with Richmond in a game against a team that was picked to win the conference back at the beginning of the season and has struggled a little bit more than people expected, but has still had a pretty good season. So these 3 games now, super emphasis, because just the other day, Travis was saying on a Zoom call with the media that he felt like he just started conference play. Right. And now, as people are watching this video on Friday afternoon, the regular season ends in exactly 1 week, which just seems not possible, but that's where we are.
Yeah, very strange. And you mentioned another strange part of this season, these net rankings that the NCAA loves to use. It's their baby when it comes to figuring out who's in and who's out. They actually give you significantly more points for winning games on the road. And the rest of us are going, why would you do that in a year where there's no home court advantage, really? I mean, the biggest threat to going on the road is that you might have a better chance of interacting with the virus because you're out from your home, kind of your home setup. So that's odd. And you wonder how much the selection committee will actually weigh that when it gets in the room. And they're going to have to look at a team like the Billikens and decide, okay, how much did COVID play a part in their season? And that's why a win against Dayton would be so big, because they would have not erased those losses, but shown that when they're back up to speed and not shaking off a month's worth of rust, that they can beat those teams. So a very big game for the Billikens on Friday, an even bigger one when they go to VCU, which will be their penultimate regular season game, as odd as that sounds. And we'll see how things shake out in the A-10 tournament. We'll have full coverage of the game at Dayton, of all the rest of the games, all three of them, at stltoday.com. But quickly before we run, we got to give a shout out to Jordan Goodwin, because this guy, Stu, he's back up to speed. He's stuffing the box score again. He's making a case for A-10 Player of the Year. Maybe I motivated them. I think I wrote a column earlier this season that said Javante Perkins looked like the A-10 Player of the Year when he was scoring like crazy, and he's playing better too, as is Hassan Prince. But Jordan Goodwin he's definitely under consideration for Conference Player of the Year. He should be.
Yeah, Jordan kind of went through what the team went through coming back from COVID, where, he was sluggish, wasn't himself for a few games, and, those doubles weren't there, and people were aghast. How could Jordan Goodwin not have a double in 2 games? Right. But yeah, he kind of remedied that in the last 3 or 4 games. He took over at point guard when Yuri Collins went down, and he seems to be kind of relishing that role, that he played in back when he was a freshman. And, almost had a triple-double the other night after winning A-10 Player of the Week. He came back with 16 points, 15 rebounds, and 8 assists. And I'm telling you, he could have had 11 or 12 assists if not for guys, missing shots that he set them up for that normally would go in. So if he can continue, he's not going to get 16, 15, and 8 every night, but if he can continue playing like the November, December Jordan Goodwin, yes, he is one of probably the top 2 Player of the Year candidates in the conference, and it's just going to help the Billikens in these last 3 games going into the conference tournament.
The best rebounding guard in the country, if not the
by
best.
Far.
And certainly tied for first, but I don't think it's even close. What's the latest on Yuri Collins? Do you think we could see him back soon?
Yuri did a little bit of practice in the last couple of days. I don't know if he did any contact stuff, and he is said to be a game time decision, which is always a good fallback for tonight.
Sure.
But the way things have been going with Jordan, I would think that maybe they will not push it too hard if they don't feel like they need to.
We'll keep an eye on that, and we'll have more coverage from a big game, SLU versus Dayton tonight at Dayton, and some big games up ahead for the Billikens. Stu, good at stuff as always. To encourage folks to keep it locked at stltoday.com for all of their coverage of the Billikens, and also check in next week for another edition of Billikens Beat here at the Post-Dispatch. For Stu, I'm Ben. Have a good weekend, everybody.